Today's video is going to be the first video of 4 that I make on the Camp America process. So this video is going to be all about the application, and then in future there's going to be videos on the visa process, the interview process, and also the whole process of getting placed. I haven't seen a video on YouTube talking about what I'm going to speak about today, so I thought it would be really useful to break down every single question that Camp America asks you in the first section of your application. But before we do that, I do want to apologise if I look and sound a bit rough. I do have COVID right now, so I'm just trying to get some YouTube videos filmed whilst I don't have to go to work. So when you make an account on Camp America, you get forwarded to a website called mycampamerica.com, and this is going to be the website that holds everything in terms of all the information about your application. This website is very easy to wrap your head around because it gives you like a next step button, so it tells you in order every single step that you need to do and always tells you what you need to do to keep up with deadlines and stuff like that. So the first section that it pushes you to fill is the application section, and this section is broken down into further subsections. I think there's 12 in total, and these sections are skills, availability, about me, camp options, education, work history, contact details, medical questions, flight choice, tell us more, passport details, and referees. So these are all sections that you need to get filled out on the application. So the first section is the skills section. So you are required to have 3 skills at least noted down on your application. So these skills can fall into any of the following categories: sports, arts and crafts, performing arts and media, childcare, special needs work, religious-based education, nature and science. But if you do feel like you have a noteworthy skill that doesn't fit into any of these sections, there is a miscellaneous tab. You need to have 3 skills at least on your application, and for each of these skills you're going to be asked whether you feel you have general, intermediate or moderate experience in this skill. Then you're going to be asked to write a few sentences about your experience to do with this skill, and then you're going to be asked about your experience teaching this skill. So the options for teaching is you have no experience teaching, you have experience teaching your family and friends, or you have experience teaching in like a professional formal setting. So the next section is availability. This is a really simple section. It's simply going to ask you 2 questions, and the first one is when is the earliest you can fly out to the USA, and the second one is when is the latest that you want to return from the USA. So if you do not have any restrictions in terms of when you can come and go, I recommend setting your availability from about mid-May to end of September. And so this way you get the full range of all camps from when they start to end, so you're not excluding any possibility. So the next section is the About Me section, and this includes just a few questions that are either yes or no or multiple choice, so it's really simple. And these questions are as follows: what experience do you have with children? What age range do you have experience in teaching? Is English your first language? Do you speak any other languages? Do you have a driver's license? What is your religion if you have one? And finally, what are your preferred pronouns? The next section is about your camp choices. So again, this is going to be another like sort of yes/no question. So it gives you a list of all the camps and it asks you whether you want to say yes, you'd like to go to that camp, no you wouldn't, or you're not sure yet and there is an option for maybe. So the types of camps that you can choose yes or no for are private camps, underserved community camps, single gender camps, Girl Scout camps, special needs camps and Christian camps. The next section is education, and this is going to ask for a bit of history of where you studied and what you studied. So it kind of asks it in a timeline form. So it asks you where you went to high school, what you studied in high school, what years you were there, and then it asks you if you went to college or sixth form, and if you did, what did you study and where did you go. And then the next section is work history, and again it asks the same thing. It wants you to fill in the last couple of years of where you worked, what your position in that work was, and what times you worked. So those 2 sections are pretty simple, but you may need a bit of prepping for that in terms of making sure you get your dates right and stuff like that. The next section is contact details. So this section is going to ask you for your name, your full address, your mobile and landline number, and the best way to contact you, either like text, phone, WhatsApp, email, stuff like that. It also asks you on this section for an emergency contact. You only need to have one, but you do need to know their full name, their full address, their relationship to you, and their phone number and landline number. The next section is medical questions. This section asks you the following things. Do you smoke? Do you have any visible tattoos or piercings? Do you have any dietary restrictions? Do you have any allergies? Do you have any vision impairments that exclude you needing glasses or contact lenses? Do you have any hearing impairments? Do you have any other physical impairments? Do you have any behavioural conditions such as ADHD? Have you ever suffered from mental illness? Have you ever attempted suicide or self-harmed? Have you ever had an eating disorder? Have you ever been a victim of sexual abuse? Do you have any other medical conditions that require special treatment? Are you currently taking any prescription medication? And finally, are you fully vaccinated against COVID-19? And what Camp America class is fully vaccinated is the first and second dose. And so it's going to ask you the type of vaccination you had, e.g. like Moderna or Pfizer. And it is also going to ask you for the exact dates that you had these vaccinations. The next section is another really simple one, and this is just going to ask you your flight choice and where you want to fly from. So if you're in the UK like me, your options are Belfast or London, and that's it at the moment. The next section is tell us more. This section is just 2 questions, but it does ask you to write quite a lot for each question. So these questions are, tell us more about your family, hobbies and interests. And then the second question is, tell us what will make you a great member of staff at camp. The next section is passport details. So this is just going to ask you to transfer all your details from your passport, exactly how they are, for example, like your passport number and your expiry date. And then finally, the last section that you need to complete on the application part of your application. So the last section, as I was saying, on your application is going to be referees. You're going to need at least 2 referees that are approved, and I'll get into what approved means in a minute. But for each referee, you're going to need the following information: their first and last name, their position, their work email, their work phone number, whether they speak English, their address, and how long you have known them for. Now, these referees are actually contacted by Camp America, so you need to make sure you have all the correct information. So these referees are contacted by Camp America, and if they do provide good information about you, then they are approved. But if they do not answer, then they are actually not approved. To proceed in the Camp America application, you do need to have at least 2 approved referees. That's the whole section of the application part. These are every single question that you're going to be asked. It is a lot more simple than I thought it was going to be, so that was a nice surprise when I first did it. So the next section I'm going to talk about is the interview part of the Camp America process and also the interview questions. So if that's something you're interested in watching, make sure to subscribe, and that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks.